to talk to you about your vision for this nation. I want to talk about the vision that you hold for my generation. I also want to talk about my vision for my generation with you. Because like you, Mr. President, I want to give my generation some change that they can believe in, Mr. President. I want to give them a future that they can count on, Mr. President. I want to ensure that the people in my generation, Mr. President, have something to look forward to.
There you go, CJ Pearson, a young conservative activist speaking directly to President Obama, asking him to sit down for an interview. And joining us for an interview right now is the man himself. CJ, great to have you with us.
Hey, thank you for having me.
All right, we want to get your take on a few things going around, but real quickly, have you heard any word from the White House about your invitation to the president?
Yeah, I've not quite heard anything from the White House, but we're definitely holding out on an answer.
All right, why do you think the president should sit down with a guy like yourself?
Yeah, definitely. Mr. President Obama has embraced many alternative media outlets, including a prominent YouTuber named Glozell, who seems to think that it's okay to drink out of a bathtub full of cereal. So I would say that, you know, it's okay definitely to sit down with a 12-year-old kid who's introduced legislation to get young people involved and to get them interested in government. I think it fits hand in hand with his agenda, and it fits in with mine.
Now, the White House knows what they're doing. You know, you mentioned Glozell and her cereal eating antics. She's got millions of followers on YouTube. Also, recently the president did a podcast interview, and a lot of times these things are calculated based on the response that he's going to get. He used the N-word. What did you think about the president using that in such a forum?
Well, I would have to say to that, what would happen if the president was white and he used that word?
Oh, wow.
Yeah, so what would happen if that ever happened? So I definitely question the double standard, and that definitely does irk me quite a bit.
All right, well, let's get your take. I know you live in Augusta, Georgia, a city that I lived in for a brief period of time as well. And back when I lived there, there was a debate going on over the Confederate flag flying over the South Carolina State House. Augusta sits right there on the border of Georgia and South Carolina. What is your take on this issue? Because I'm sure this is not the first time you've heard discussed in the wake of the shooting.
Definitely. I definitely think this flag is an integral part of the Southern history, but I do believe it's not representative of the future of the South. So I believe for all of us to come together under a united front, that it is best for this flag to come down. I think, you know, many want to show their Southern pride. There are many other ways to do that. T-shirts, bumper stickers. It does not necessarily mean that the flag has to be on the grounds of the state capitol.
And I would imagine that some of your classmates flaunt the Confederate flag pretty proudly if Augusta is anything like I remember it to be.
Yeah, you're completely right. You know, there are definitely times where, you know, we'll go out hunting and they'll have their Confederate T-shirts or whatnot. They probably own a few flags, but at the end of the day, should this be endorsed by the government, and should a losing nation have the luxury of having their flag on the grounds of maintained by taxpayers?
Yeah, that's a fair point. You know, there's a big difference between, I think a lot of folks are raised about, and they learn about the Confederate flag. All they really know is the General Lee from Dukes of Hazzard, and maybe a little Gone with the Wind too, but there's a much more complicated history to it than that. Let's also talk a little bit more about your man Rand Paul. You've endorsed him for president. He says the Confederate flag should be placed in a museum. Is that where you think that flag should exist?
I completely agree. Like I said, this is an integral part of our history, and it definitely should be placed in a museum. You know, we are bound to forget things, we are bound to repeat things that we forget, and having a museum will give us the opportunity to look back on this struggle and to ensure that it doesn't happen again. Randy was completely right that this is a symbolism that isn't, it's not productive in the political arena, nor is it productive in the society that we live in 2015. It's time to move forward, keep on chugging along, and get through the issues that we're faced with in 2015.
Yeah, now we're looking at other states. Mitch McConnell talking about a statue of Jefferson Davis at the Kentucky State House, Mississippi moving to change its flag, Alabama doing similar measures here. Obviously, this is resonating throughout the South, and I think it's symbolic of a discussion that started a long time ago that is still evolving to this day. Would you agree?
You're completely right. And another thing I would like to point out...
Well, CJ, we'll have to pick it up another time. I'm afraid we had to let it go there, but we appreciate you weighing in. As always, great to see you.